about, let's see, 19 years old, my friend Christopher Kulchur gave me a book called Through the Windshield. He said, hey, you think you can write? Here's a book to read. And I read it, and I was like, oh my God, where's this guy from? He's like, from right here, motherfucker. Blah, 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 blah. So, I figured out a way to scam the book off him, and I kept it. And we got, fast forward some 2 decades. I'm tiddling around on Facebook, and I'm like, I'm going to ask him to read here. And I'm all nervous about it. I'm like, I know somebody that knows him. I didn't know that he knew all these people that I knew. And I'm like, how did I fucking not meet this guy? So I asked him, and he's like, I was going to ask. And so here we are. So Through the Windshield, and they have, he has books for sale today. So you should buy them. That's what goes on here. You buy books. Just so you know, all independent publishers, independent press operators get 100% of the sales of their work at Guide to Culture. We make our money on the people that think they should read Camus. And sorry, and all that. And we let, our folks keep their money, because why nickel and dime the nickel and dime? All right, so let's make it a little bit bigger pot this time around. I want to a warm round of applause. It's like I've been drinking whiskey all day. Maybe for Mike DeCapite.
This is from Through the Windshield. In the morning, I went next door to Ed's place. I found him at the kitchen table. He said, "Can you believe they suspended us from the track because that guy hit me in the mouth? They didn't do a fucking thing to him. He's a trainer. You got anything to drink?" He says, "I got a half pint of vodka on the shelf. Have a slug of that." It's 9 o'clock in the morning. You got any juice?" "No juice. I got ice water in the fridge." I pour some into an orange plastic cup, swallow a gulp, and wince. "What is this?" "Spring water. Tastes funny." "How come it tastes so funny?" "That's because you're used to drinking that shit water from the faucet, that's why. This don't taste right. That's artesian spring water," he explains, "bought from Fazio's. This must be a spring on the south side." "You're just not used to..." "Where'd you get that cup?" "In the dish rack here." "All right, you know what? I used that cup. I had pine sol in that cup. I was trying to clean the sink. I must not have rinsed it out all the way." "God damn it, what's the matter with you?" I sat down with the pine sol glowing in my throat. Now I need a fucking shot of vodka to chase that with. I got up, took a swig from the bottle, sat back down, annoyed with him. I lit a cigarette. I said, "Are you ready?" "Yeah, let's go." We're driving to the track. Ed's talking about Uncle John. "I went to see him yesterday. Dropped off $100 I won, playing cards toward the 300, which it broke my heart to do. I need that fucking money. But I told him I lost the rest in a game, and I noticed he ain't shaved in a while." "Yeah." "Says he's growing a beard in protest." "In protest?" "Yeah, I told him he looked pretty good with it. He says he's growing it in protest until I pay him all his money back." "He's going to look like fucking Rip Van Winkle by the time I pay him back." "Was he serious?" "He said it was either that or burn the house down or bury me in a box with enough air and water for 6 days. So he's taking the mild route." That fucking nut. And I'm over there, right? For some reason he starts trying to impress me how thrifty he is, right? He's wearing these shoes, old pair of shiny, pointy shoes. He's going, "Look at these shoes. I'm the only guy I know who... I've had these shoes since I was 18. They're still in good shape. Look at the soles on them. Never wear out." I said, "John, you ain't fucking gone anywhere since you was 18. Probably last forever. Those shoes outlasted 4 presidents." "Oh, fuck. Am I getting a flat?" "Yeah. Sounds like I'm getting 4 of them." "Son of a bitch. You got a spare?" I'm trying to think. We go rattling up to the top of Fleet Avenue exit ramp. His car feels like a stagecoach anyway. It's hard to tell. He stops to lean out the door. Is it flat? Yeah, it's flat, all right, he says, closing the door. I just don't feel like changing this. I can't change it. I got that bumper on the back. It's just barely wired on. Shit. Gas station's up there. Yeah, the point is, will they do it? We're driving up Fleet. He says, we can just drive to the track like this. Just take longer. Why do people stare at you when you drive with a flat? I mean, you know you got a flat, right? That guy just yelled at me, I have a flat. He did. Did you hear that? You think I don't know I'm driving like this? I'm going 6 miles an hour at a 40-mile speed limit. My head's bouncing off the roof, my tongue's hanging out. Hey, buddy, you got a flat. Okay, Mr. All-American. I'm getting traffic accidents, trying to tell you. The first Ohio we came to was a self-service. We kept going until we found another with a service bay. Back on the way, up Miles Avenue, past Calvary Cemetery. That's where my grandmother's at, I tell him. And my grandfather. That's where my grandfather's buried. He's at Calvary? November 12th, 1961. I was there when he died. I was 12 years old. I remember sitting on the couch, and my mother come out, says he's not going to make it. I remember my old man going in there with a bottle of booze, having a shot, like a toast to him, you know. And it seemed kind of, they had a shot together, and he died like an hour later. I thought about that. Saw figures in a room, and then my own grandparents. I saw them both separately, and then as a sort of composite, an idea that seemed like it had something to do with me, an expectation, an identity. But I didn't know what it was exactly, so I let it go. It receded in the light, and I was rolling along. Ed said, that field over there, Woodland Field, when I was 16 years old, I was playing baseball in Beechwood. MVP every year since I was 9. Every year. I got to be 16, and this is where the Class F was. I couldn't get down here. My old man had totally no interest in me or anything else. All that fucker had to do was take me down here. I could have been in the major leagues. To this day, I believe that. I was great. I didn't join no baseball that year, and then it was over with. Really? So that's what you wanted to be? That's what I was good at. It's what everyone seemed to expect. I was all set. He wanted to send me to umpire school. Umpire school? Yeah, umpire, good secure job. Where do you get that? I was planning on being a baseball player. I had every hope in the world to be that. Somehow he come up with this umpire stuff and was pissed. It was in Florida. Just leave home right now, go to Florida, go to umpire school. He gave me this application he got on the waterfront. Oh, it's in Pensacola, Florida, 8-week umpire school. But I don't want to be an umpire. I mean, it sounds nice, but I don't want to be an umpire. Even if I could pass the thing, I don't want to be an umpire. Where'd you come up with this? Don't even know nothing about baseball. I got to be an umpire now? Any encouragement, or just none of that. You know what my old man's advice to me was? When you go to a strange men's room, put toilet paper on the seat. That's the only thing I remember him telling me in 38 years. And when you take a shit, make sure your wallet don't fall out of your hand. And always look for a wallet. I've never found a wallet in 38 years of going to Thistledown, Euclid Beach, every fucking amusement park, racetracks, Las Vegas. I'm almost 40. I've never once found a wallet on the floor. Yet. So other fathers must have told their sons to watch for wallet. But me, every time Ed goes in the bathroom, he puts his wallet in his top pocket of his shirt. I ain't losing my wallet. Give me 2 worthless pieces of information. But I do put toilet paper on the seat at the racetrack. I stared out the window. It was a bright afternoon. The brightness seemed to contain a falling, like stuttered rain. Something within the brightness was continually falling. I turned away from it. What about as an adult? Has he given you any advice lately? He reaches his Newports off the dash, shakes a cigarette loose, takes it in his teeth, flips the pack back up on the dash, lights the cigarette. Well, about 6-7 years ago, he was living at this old soldiers' home in Sandusky. My mom exiled him for about 1.5 years. She kicked him out. How'd he end up there, of all places? I don't know how he found out about it, through the alcoholics ward at the hospital, and he was a veteran. They found out he had no place to go now, and they sent him there. The place was for indigent veterans? Right. They had their minimum jobs, the guys that would take care of the kitchen, cook, guys that would do janitorial duties. He went there and took over with the watchman. He had security guard badge and hat. At night he would like walk around the grounds. Did you ever go down there? Yeah, I went down there once. Why I would ever go visit him, I have no idea. I think he was on leave for like 3 days, and somehow I drove him back. What do you mean on leave? Weren't they allowed to come and go? No, you couldn't just, they didn't want you to just use it as a fucking hotel. You had curfews, and, you know, on weekends you had to be back by 9. I mean, they ran it pretty strict. They didn't want to just make it a flop house. They had some kind of strict rules, just like an army base. And so he got a 3-day pass, and I took him back, and he went, you know, we went to his bunk. He had his own locker, just like the army bunk, locker, and, you know, he showed me his captain's badge, his hat, and everything. He introduced me to his buddies. Mostly they just sleep, play cards, tell war stories, just waiting out their final years. So I guess he was kind of impressed by it. When he got out, figured I should find out about getting in there myself. What, he had so little hope for your old age? Oh, then, at the time, I don't get it. It's confusing to me too, believe me. But you mean, well, it was a good idea, all in all, you know, rest home in Sandusky. Wait, I mean, I'd have been a 10-year man there now. Well, how old were you then? I was like 30. Do you remember when he brought this up to you? I was bitching about work or whatever. I'm broke. I've always been a bum in his eyes, no matter what I did. Even if I was working, I was still a bum. You know, you're a veteran, you can go. What'd this come up for? What do you mean? Just go to this place and live. Well, I got an apartment right now. I'm working at Coke. I mean, what? It's free. It's free, I know. I go, well, I understand that. What's the average age there? 80? I mean, I'm 31. Then don't go. Thanks, I prefer not to. Can't you get on the list at least? Well, I really don't want to be on the list either, to tell you the truth. I don't really want to call me. What do I do? Just pack my bags and go sit there on the bed, and that's it? Do you think that little of me, I can't even survive as a bum? I have to go there and live at 31? And this went on for a couple of weeks. It wasn't like a one-day thing. Every day trying to hammer me. Why don't you fucking go there? It wasn't even like I was living with him, intruding on his life, or, you know, I wasn't barely even fucking associated with him. And don't fucking go there. Why would I want to go there? Why wouldn't you want to go there? Get free meals, free dental coverage, free hospitalization. I go, well, yeah, that sounds good. Free fatigues. Oh, geez, Dad, I only served 2 years. What excuse would I give these people for going down there? Am I wounded, or my wife died, or what do I do? Could you imagine that? What is this fucking guy doing? They'd be like scratching their heads, going, hey, Joe, who's this guy? He's at least 30 years younger than the rest of us. Why are you here? Well, my dad told me to come. And I'm just going to stay here now with you guys. Go to bed with you guys and look at the ducks. I mean, he stayed there, but to send me down, shit me out at 31, says, look, if you're a watchman, you go to the refrigerator, got Sangies, anything you want. But Dad, I don't want to live here and get a Sangie at 3 in the morning because I'm a guard. That wasn't my goal when I graduated high school, I guarantee you that. I may not have made it, but I still have a chance. All these Sangies in here. I hate it when I used to say Sangies. But he actually told me he had a little bit of pull. I go, well, Dad, then you write the letter of explanation why I'm coming here. You go in front of the board and say why they're going to admit Ed Jr. What did he do in life to deserve to come here? Well, my dad recommended me. I was in Korea. I was a weatherman. I filled up balloons. And it was brutal, and I think I deserve to be here now. Yes, I work at Coke right now. I'm making $250 a week, which is good pay at this time. I do have a girlfriend, yeah, and a car. Son, why would you want to be here? Officer, I don't know, but my old man thinks it's a good idea. Give me bunk number 23A and my locker, and I'll be happy for the next 40 years. I'm walking up Havemeyer when I think, I'd really like a popsicle. Of all things, right? All of a sudden I want a popsicle. I haven't thought about a popsicle in 40 years. Out of nowhere, it's like you're at the mercy of any stray thought. Nixon was president the last time I had a popsicle. But it's a hot day, I quit smoking, whatever it was, I want a popsicle. So I go to a bodega, but they don't have regular popsicles. All they've got is crazy, multicolored confections, part French tickler, part fireworks. One of those long, frozen plastic things that burn the back of your throat. I just want a regulation, old-fashioned twin pop, like when I was a kid. So I go to the supermarket, but you have to buy a box. The smallest box is 12, so I buy a box of 12. And that night I'm lying around watching The Sopranos or something. I eat 6 of them. I quit smoking maybe 3 months before, and you need something to do while you're watching these shows. When I smoked, I could watch 5, 6 episodes back to back because you're smoking. You're sort of involved with the action. Cigarettes make you part of the action. You're not just lying there. I can't just lie there and watch these assholes for 5 hours with nothing to do. I need something. Anyway, I ate half the box, 6 popsicles, and the next night, because it's there, again with the TV, I finished the box. And now, because I did it 2 nights in a row, it's like a little routine. I make a habit out of everything. So night 3, on my way home from work, I stopped, buy another box of 12 popsicles. I don't know what my relationship status was at this point, that I was free to lie around watching The Sopranos every night eating popsicles. Maybe I was with June and we weren't seeing each other at night until her divorce came through. I must have been with June because I'd only been able to quit smoking by including it in my compact with her, sort of a good faith gesture. The popsicles I wouldn't tell her about. It's too idiotic. Every night back and forth to the kitchen. Now I have a red one, now I have a purple one. Sometimes taking 2 at a time so one can start to melt while I eat the other one. It's better when they soften up a little. So this goes on for maybe a week. Every 3 nights I go to the supermarket and buy a dozen popsicles until I go there one night and there are no more boxes of 12. I cleaned them out. There's only a box of 24. So I have no choice. I buy the box of 24. I cross the line into the unknown. I buy the all-American suburban superhero economy jumbo family pack, figuring, this is crazy, but at least it'll last me 4 days. And that night I ate the entire box. 24 popsicles, back and forth to the freezer, now cherry, now grape, now orange, lying on my back, peering over my belly like a seal, in one hand and a popsicle in the other, the window fan blowing, take a disc out, turn it over, start another one, and the sticks and wrappers piling up on the table beside the clock with its minute hand going around and around on this orgy of popsicles, a popsicle apocalypse. You look at a clock during something like this and you realize you're on your own. There's no one watching, no one in charge. Nothing prevents you from degenerating to madness and savagery except some voice at the back of your mind. Probably by the end I was just trying to get it over with, get finished with The Sopranos and finish off this box so I could close the book on this whole sorry chapter and get on with my life. Nevertheless, I did eat 24 twin pops in one night. I woke up the next morning with a purple tongue and a rash on both arms. And now I know I can never have another drink. I can never just buy a bag of dope someday for the hell of it, or an 8-ball because I got people in town. Whatever it is, I can't do it. I can never smoke even one cigarette without turning into a fiend. I have to just forget about all that and get on with it. Just get on with what's left of my life. Yes, just keep my head down and set off across the tundra. A little wiser, a little older, a little more embarrassed. Because now this is another thing you're capable of, another absurdity. You like yourself a little less. It's like you wash a pet and you see what kind of scrawny, abject little creature has been living under there all this time. It's hard to feel the same about it. But what are you going to do? Get rid of the pet? You're stuck with the pet like you're stuck with yourself, so on you go. I sat with Lincoln while he ate his buffalo wings. Ted had given him my number because I had a big bag of little toys and trinkets and novelties from Jane's Christmas party. So when I got off the train, there was a message from Lincoln, the first time he'd ever called me. I listened as I walked up Marcy in the dark. He said Ted had told him I had something for him and that he was on his way out to get dinner in case I wanted to meet him, or he could come over. I should call him. I did. He was at Buffalo Cantina waiting for some food to go. I told him to wait there for me. I went upstairs, got the bag, took it to him. By the time I got there, he was eating his wings. He was the only one in there. He was 11. I sat in the booth with him while he ate. I didn't want to leave him there. While being glad to get the bag of stuff, he sort of took it in stride. Not as his due, but as part of the many interesting things that came his way each day. He either knew what each thing was, or understood it immediately. Between wings, he reached in and pulled a doll off the top of the pile, one of those bald rubber things you squeeze and its eyes and ears pop out. He said, I always wanted one of these. He knew what it was, Bob. He knew its name. Gave it a squeeze, dropped it in the bag, pulled out something else. It was a book light, a sort of African tambourine, some sort of compass. I told him to wait till he got home and his hands weren't covered in buffalo sauce. He gnawed at a piece of celery with his front teeth like a cartoon beaver, relishing it. He picked up a wing and watched the TV above my head while he ate it. Some food show was on. Everything was interesting to him. The fat guy on the food show sampling delicacies of Brazil, the wing-eating competition posted on the wall, the new places that had opened on Havemeyer. He was curious about everything, in favor of it all. He was like his father that way, universally curious. His father was at an NA meeting. I was thinking out loud about where to get dinner, and Lincoln said, why don't you get something here? Wings are only $5. Simple, right? Of course, he didn't know I had a boycott against the place for some reason I'd forgotten, or that I tried to eat organically raised chickens when I could get it, or that I was watching what I ate and therefore didn't want to eat fried chicken wings covered in buffalo sauce and smeared with blue cheese dressing, or that I tried to balance my meals with some vegetables. Lincoln was just a kid. He was unburdened by all these conditions. His life wasn't conditional. His road wasn't blocked by red and yellow lights. It was green lights all the way. Simple, right? You're here, get something here. Do you ever go to the pizza place? They got a Hawaiian slice. My dad doesn't like it, but I think it's great. Or try that new falafel place. They have good gyros, only $6. When he was finished, he walked me up there and waited with me while they got my order, playing with some ball and stick from the bag, batting the ball on its elastic in all directions while we waited in the empty place. The difference between us was as stark as when you look at an old photograph of yourself. You're 50 years old, and you're basically this banged-up, damaged old guy looking to bring his life in for a not-too-bumpy landing. And the world around you is this poisoned, low-ceiling place of very limited possibilities and expectations. You got a bad tooth on one side and a loose crown on the other, and a couple of ex-wives, and your knees hurt from the treadmill, and there are as many friends you're not talking to as those you are talking to. And you're not drinking anymore, or you're at an NA meeting, and Lincoln doesn't know anything about any of this. He has no history. He's starting here. There's no used to be for him. There was no better time. Things haven't gotten worse. There's no time like the present. He has no responsibility to the past. The world is his. He's starting now, and it's all great. He approves. All systems go. Roger that. And there he is, smacking that little red ball as they're bagging up my gyro, and I walk into his corner, and he's talking the whole way, and he goes on his way, and I go mine. Top of the subway stairs, I run into Tony. He's taking out the garbage, putting new bags in the cans, and then we're standing outside his door. It's late on a spring afternoon, and we're standing there with our hands in our pockets, taking it all in. The people going by, and Kellogg's Diner, and the traffic, and the trees in McCree Park, which are new again, and the sky above the BQE. This light, this is the color of and yet. The color of everything outside what you've decided. Outside of what you know. It's like creamsicle blue. It's not even a color. It's not so much a color as it's less a color than a bias. You can lose your faith in writing, but that doesn't quiet the voice that calls you to it, even if only to write that you've lost your faith in it. And you can see that sex is a trap, but that doesn't stop you from looking at every woman who walks by, young, old, paired up, single, healthy, or half dead, or pregnant. And it doesn't mean that the sight of them doesn't hurt. You can tell yourself you've outgrown love, but that doesn't mean you're no longer alert for its approach. And you can dismiss God, but remain alert for his presence. And with no belief, even in meaning, you go on manufacturing it and projecting it on everything around you. What is it that keeps going beyond the scope of belief and disbelief, illusion and disillusion? It's not hope. It's life, I guess. which is everything except what you think it is. Everything except your ideas of it. It's in the way all your ideas of what should and shouldn't be disappear in the flicker of a chain link fence moving past you, or a flight of pigeons turning in the sky, or the stones doing rocks off. Any of these can catch you just right one day and contain all you care to invest it with. Each of them is life, all of it, for a moment and never again. Yes or no? That's the question. And then there's everything outside the question, which is life. On Sundays, after the gym, I often go to Little Poland for a big Sunday lunch. It's my substitute for marriage. At the counter, the old burnt-out poets and black jean guys and the school teachers and social workers are grudgingly talking over bowls of soup and slabs of challah because they chanced to look up from their papers at the wrong time and recognize each other from around the neighborhood. And a beautiful young woman sits down alone with a notebook for a plate of scrambled eggs, a poet herself, or a fashion student, and anyway, a reminder that New York is still a standing dream. The counter is the nerve center, where the women are squeezing past to the soup and vegetable terrines, filling bowls with mushroom barley, chicken, lentil, lamb, and split pea soup, with borscht, with green beans, red cabbage, corn, spinach, and beets, ladling brown or mushroom gravy over mashed potatoes and plate-sized golden cutlets. And from there, I can keep an eye on the Polish cabinet of wonders, a sort of stainless steel chest of drawers or schifferrobe, where they keep the boiled noodles and potatoes, the steamed kasha and carrots, the stuffed cabbage, golubki, the roast pork, the bigos and stroganoff and goulash. Whatever they think of appears there in a drawer. I'd like to get one of these cabinets for the house. I eat a big plate of meat blintzes or stuffed veal breast and let the place blast the philosophy of negation out of my head and finish with a coffee and a great solid block of homemade apple cake and walk out of there with the sunlight flaring in on honey locusts on 2nd Avenue. We take the Palisades, and there's New York across the river, like it was there all along. And pretty soon, we're crossing the George Washington Bridge through all that vertical air, all that glory, the glory of in-between, the rapture of right now, and the gull-vaulted sky. We come off the bridge, and Gene Clark is playing, and the green treetops are tossing, a canopy of them, down to the Hudson. The car windows are open, and the day is breathing through us. It's a kind of benediction. There are those moments when you've come off the upper level and you're circling. You're circling above the treetops with the river spread below, and you have a moment to reflect on it all before dropping into the chaos and immediacy of experience. How many times had I burst in from elsewhere, circled past the apartment windows of Washington Heights, and gone barreling down the Hudson Parkway, the river rising beside me. I feel that dream of New York again, from before I lived here. Guy changing the oil of a truck on 11th Avenue. Now I don't live anywhere, except my own ribs and skull. Two more short ones. I woke to the sound of a shovel scraping the sidewalk below. Last night I'd walked her to the subway in a blizzard, which was also the year's first snowfall. Snow swirl. It snowed upward, went spiraling down side streets, broadsided you at every intersection. Someone was laughing, but you couldn't look up. Then she was laughing, standing in a drift. She had a certain pure laugh that sounded like life to me. She was able to laugh at herself, and she did it naturally. There was no self-regard in it. And in that laughter, I heard all of life, why we live, even though we suffer and even though we die, why it's still worth it. Headlights floated by. For a time, a skinny young guy fell in step with us. He was holding the remains of an umbrella over his head. He looked like he'd walked out of a Roadrunner cartoon. He asked where we were going. When we crossed the road to drop off a movie, I said, "You're on your own." We heard him through the snow looking for a new friend. He didn't seem to have seen snow before. She said, "You must be from California." I missed her, even with her at my side. She turned me inside out, or I turned myself inside out for her. I felt like my heart was on the outside beating. There was never enough of her. I could never get close enough, never possess her completely enough, as though there were some measure of completeness beyond complete, something beyond now, something in the realm of the imagination, some essence. I felt as though maybe cannibalism was the answer, to kill and eat her right there in the snow. She claimed to feel exactly the same, but these things are hard to know. I kissed her at the subway. She was just a nose and a smile encircled by a snowy hood. Told her to hold the rail and watched her down. The walk home was desolate. Outside my hood it was nearly silent. The only acute sound was the snapping of a plastic tarp on a motorcycle. By the time I made it to my door, my coat and scarf were white. I waited for the elevator with the snow melting off me, missing her something terrible. Once inside, I locked the door as though to protect what remained of her presence there. The screens were clotted with snow, and there were 5 inches of it on the outside sill. I hung my scarf and coat and gloves in the shower, dried my hair with a towel, and went to bed listening to the radiator. The room hung with orange snowlight. And this morning I lay listening to the shovel on the sidewalk, and then silence. My heart was still on the outside, beating, waiting. One night after work, 30 years ago in Cleveland, I took the rapid transit downtown, a Friday night in early December. That's how I remember it, right after work, around 5 o'clock, 5:30, in the dark. For some reason, maybe by mistake, I took the train to 25th Street instead of downtown. I was going, I guess, to the record store, Record Rendezvous, where Jimmy Jones presided. Maybe it was payday, and after mentally paying all my bills and figuring and refiguring my budget for the next 2 weeks, maybe I had an extra 20 to blow. I could usually manage to buy myself a record or two every couple of weeks. Anyway, I got off the rapid at this deserted station, this deserted platform across the river from downtown. And it was snowing. I was a little lost, but not completely lost, because I could see the terminal tower across the river through the falling snow. I was just lost enough. And since I had nowhere to go or be that night, and didn't have to work the next day, which opened my imagination, or dropped my defenses against imagination, and since I was accountable to no one, I started walking toward downtown. I must have dared myself to do it. Just walk there. And started walking down the hill toward the river. Not that it was a long walk or anything. It was a challenge to routine, to the idea that I had to get home right now, that I had to explain myself to anyone, or even to myself. It was a challenge to the established routes. And so I walked to the river, and then, in the dark among the weeds, I found the mouth of an unused road along the river, and I followed it. The snow was falling in big flakes and ticking into the weeds, and through the snow I could see the terminal tower. I was lost, but not too lost, and because it was Friday and payday, I was free, but just free enough to know it. I think of this as the time of Sandinista, the Clash record, but it could have been a year later. I don't remember what I bought at the record store. I don't remember being there. I don't remember downtown or by what bridge I crossed the river. What I remember is walking on a road that wasn't quite a road, through tall, dead weeds, with the terminal tower through the falling snow, in the early dark of an early December Friday night, on what turns out to have been one of the happiest nights of my life.